Welcome to the Leadership Zone. I'm your host, Sile Walsh, Leadership Development Specialist, Coach and Researcher. About leading and the difference between leading individuals, collaborators, a group and a team. And the reason for this is that leading a group has a completely different dynamic to leading a team of people who are contributing from multiple perspectives to the one task. There's a complexity in team leadership that we don't always talk about, and that is the interdependence and the inability to separate out one person's performance from another. Why this matters is if you have a number of direct reports and they do very individual pieces of work that can be started and completed at their own time, in their own way, maybe not in their own time, but in their own way, and you can trace back to at what point the work went awry, then you've got a lot of independent contributors, even if the work is interdependent. Whereas usually when you're leading a team, the things that get in the way are less about who owns what and more about the relationships at play and the way people relate to each other and the power sources and the personalities. And with independent kind of direct reports where there is work that's interdependent, but they contribute from very kind of like solo perspectives, versus a team in which it's not just about what they produce and who's responsible for what, but how they interact has this overarching impact on how work is done or contributed or completed. So my name is Sile Walsh and I'm a leadership specialist, and I'm based in Ireland, and I'm really interested in the psychology of leadership, the psychology of inclusion, how we understand each other, how we work well together, how we thrive, how we create workplaces that are not just effective and efficient, but are also places we want to be and like to go. So that's kind of what I do. So the reason for this topic is it comes up all the time. I literally have a list of topics that I can put a dot beside every time I work with a group of leaders, because there are specific things about leading a team that are unique and isn't the same as just fulfilling a leadership role or managing direct reports. And those relationships and those complications is a big piece of it. So as part of the leadership zone, I'm talking about the core things that are going on for leaders all the time and trying to bring a little bit of insight and reflection and consideration to the topic. So there is actually an article on my website, silewalsh.com. If you go to leadership development articles, you'll see that there's 10 strategies about effectively leading a team. Before you do that, it is worth thinking about some of the things I'm going to bring up, because I'm not repeating myself here. It's written in the article, you can read that. But what we need to think about when we're thinking about team leadership is our relationship with teams. What's our expectation? What's their expectation of us? What are the unwritten rules? What are the unconscious dynamics at play? What is getting in the way of the team performing? And please remember that the team performing is very different to individuals in the team performing. If individuals within the team are performing, you may not have enough togetherness for the team to actually reach its potential of performance. And so what we really have to think about then is, what are we doing that keeps people safely siloed in their individual contributor roles and isn't requiring them to think about how they contribute to the development and the performance of others? Because when we are working together as a team, there's this reciprocal nature that happens between us and others. We don't simply see ourselves as an individual contributor, and we don't simply measure ourselves or others based on individual contribute. Word soup at the moment. Contributes. I've lost the word. Anyway, because I don't overly polish these sessions, I'm more focused on getting you the content. You're going to see that even when I'm talking, I can miss the words. And part of this is actually role modeling. So, and it is related to team leadership, but bear with me. Sometimes in leadership, we're so busy performing perfection that we're not actually contributing value, because what we're doing is we're more focused on how we're being perceived than focusing on the relationship. And while lots of podcasts are really spick and span and done really well, and lots of videos are perfectly polished, I don't do that because I'm not role modeling what it is I'm talking to you about. And what I'm talking to you about is showing up with the authenticity of what we're doing, because that helps the relationship. If I cut out those extra bits where I'm making mistakes or mincing my words or there's word soup happening, then I'm hiding part of my humanity. And that creates mistrust, or it creates some vision of me being perfect. And this is something you need to consider in your team leadership. If you are only exposing and only talking about successes and the desire to be seen as perfect as a leader, it is going to transcend into your team, and they are going to struggle with their own authenticity, their own needs, their own challenges. And if you can't role model that yourself, you're going to unconsciously undermine psychological safety. You're going to say that here we have standards of perfection and they are more important than you as a person bringing your full self and focusing on contributing and focusing on getting it on the table, even if it's not perfect, letting us thrash it out together. So a big part of team leadership is actually imperfection, and it is the relationship at hand. And it is learning about what the needs and unmet needs of the people on your team are, and how you as a leader can support your team members understanding their own needs, getting them met, and staying on task. At the end of the day, the team is always together, not just for the game that's at hand today, but for the league. And that can often get lost when we're so focused on the game. We can give up on relationships, or we can sacrifice relationships to win this game, setting us up to fail the league. And for anyone who's into sports, you're going to understand that metaphor. Not that I'm wildly into it, but I did grow up in a house with a lot of sports happening and being discussed. For those of you who aren't into sports metaphors, it goes along the lines of winning the battle, losing the war. So you can win the thing at hand. You can become so distracted by the task at hand that you can sacrifice relationships and people on your team, which then in the long run sets you up to fail in the longer approach, in the more sustainable, strategic approach, because it means that you're overly focused on just the task. So as a leader, one of the things you're trying to do constantly with teams is help maintain a culture of effectiveness and relating effectively. So effectiveness towards the task, but also relating effectively. And part of that is you showing up imperfectly as well. Now, that's not an excuse for not, crossing your T's, dotting your I's and all of that. It's more about understanding that sometimes our preoccupation as leaders to be perfect or to present everything together negates the actual relational aspect of the work, which means that people can't relate to us as easily. So there's fantasies about who we are and what we do. And when we're thinking about team leadership, we want to remove as much of that distraction, the fear of being in trouble. We want to remove perfectionism. We want to remove anything that stops people being able to comfortably focus on the task at hand and know what good enough looks like for the task. And so if you want to know more about team leadership, pop over to my website. There's also links below that you can go on and read the 10 strategies. But first, it's really important, I think, to just have that kind of philosophical concept of why leading a team is different. When you're leading individual contributors, you just kind of have to navigate what they are presenting for you. But when you are actually leading a team, you have to care for the team, the relationships within the team and the team's performance, as well as the task the team is deemed to produce. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. You can pop me a Twitter comment on Sile Walsh 1 or over on LinkedIn. You can sign up for a free leadership consultation with me via my website. The link's below. You can read the articles or visit the YouTube. But get in contact with me and let me know what you're thinking about that and how you understand and perceive the difference in leading a team versus leading a group of individual contributors. I look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you for listening to the Leadership Zone. We can continue this conversation over on Twitter, and my Twitter handle is @ShilaWalsh1, or at LinkedIn, you'll find me under Sile Walsh. To book a free consultation to discuss your leadership needs or the leadership development needs of your organisation, simply visit my website www.shilawalsh.com and book a free leadership consultation. I look forward to hearing from you.